Are you feeling sluggish, tired, or frequently unwell? It might be more than just your busy lifestyle. Today, you're going to discover how this super vitamin can transform your health and vitality. Learn about the surprising benefits of this essential nutrient, how to spot deficiencies, and practical tips to maximize your levels naturally. Prepare to take control of your health and feel your best right after this. Welcome, everybody. This is the Life Enthusiast online radio and TV network, restoring vitality to you and the planet. I'm your host, Scott Paton. Joining us, as usual, Martin Pytela, health coach. Hey, Martin, how are you doing today?
It's good. It's summer. I should be at the beach, but no, I'm stuck indoors talking into the screen.
And I'm the opposite. I am on a Greek island, 2 hours southwest of Athens. And you'll notice I'm wearing red because I fully expected to be very red today. In fact, you'll see my nose is a little bit red because I spent 2 hours on the top of a ferry coming from the port of Pytela, or something like that. Piraeus to the island of Hydra, which is spelled Hydra. And being a comic fan, Hydra is the arch enemies of Captain America. And when I discovered the name, I had to come and see the island. And it is beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's small. I could stay here for months, I think. But the trip was on a ferry. I was on the roof. There was no clouds. I had a hat on, but I was fully expected to be very, very burned. And to my shock and amazement, aside from a little bit of red here, I had red arms, but they've in the last hour have disappeared. I mean, not disappeared. Yeah. It doesn't look tan, but it's, for me, it's a lot more colorful than normal. And I think I am charged with the special vitamin that we're going to be talking about today.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So we're going to be talking about vitamin D. And the more that we hear about it, the more that we see research being done about it, the more people are taking more excess of what the daily minimum requirement by our FDA says, the more they're finding huge improvements in their lives and in their health. So I guess where we need to start with is, what is the role of vitamin D in the body?
Yeah, well, we're still thinking about it. And also, vitamin D is called vitamin, but in fact, it should be called a hormone too. And the main roles, just to dive into that, is of course, number one, it has to do with calcium transport. Calcium is super important. It controls a lot of transactions. The autonomic nervous system is totally dependent on it. And calcium is mainly deposited in our bones, but it's not sitting there. It's moving in and out all the time. And we have deposits and withdrawals all the time. And if you have more withdrawals than deposits, then you end up with osteoporosis, thinning bones. Anyway, the importance of calcium, right? Every muscle contraction is triggered by calcium. And of course, you need magnesium on the opposite side to open it up. Anyway, the vitamin D3 name, calciferol, has something to do with moving calcium. So, bone health as such, if you don't have enough vitamin D3, you will not have effective deposits putting the calcium back into the bone. The other thing, of course, with calcium, I misspoke, with vitamin D3, is that it's involved in the immune system regulation. So if you happen to be catching every cold, somebody sneezes in the room and you're worried, you're probably deficient. And I don't know if you remember the days or if you've read about the days back when tuberculosis used to be a problem. we didn't have effective treatment. We didn't have antibiotics that would just shut down the bacterium that caused tuberculosis. So we would send people to sanatorium. Sana as in health. And people would spend time in altitude, in higher elevation, lying on beds exposed to sun, breathing clean mountain air. That was the treatment: sunshine and air. And so once you understand that it's really as helping to heal your body at that level, then you may as well extend it to all chronic disease, which would include all the metabolic diseases, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, all of that. But you don't fix the disease. You build the body's health. And when your body's healthy, then that disease will not exist within you.
So, Mark, one of the things that we've talked about a number of times on the show is how there may be certain things the body needs that it doesn't make itself. So we need to supplement. This is the opposite. This is one of those things where if you just get out and get some sun, and I don't know how long, I'm sure 2 hours is excessive, like I was today, but you can get all that you need just by being out in the sun.
Well,
but there's a problem.
Well, let me just address that while you're on the topic, which is you need to have enough skin area exposed. So you need to be essentially in swimsuit at midday in the summer. If 15 minutes will make 10,000 IUs of vitamin D3, which is about the daily requirement. So 15 minutes full sun exposure. If all you're exposing is your arms and your face, well, now you need to push that further out.
A few hours.
Right.
Cool.
So now we're on to how much, right? Or are we? Should we discuss how much vitamin D or not yet?
Well, yeah. We before we get to that part, the one thing I wanted to mention too is we have been trained very, very well to, when we go out in the sun, splash all this stuff that's on skin exposed to the sun, which blocks the sun. So you could be spending 15 hours in a swimsuit in front of the sun at noon, and very little of it is being converted to vitamin D because you have splashed sunblock 89 all over you, and you can still see the lotion.
Yeah, that whole sunscreen, sunblock, suntan lotion industry is one of those inventions that should never have happened. Yes, it's wrong to expose yourself to burn, right?
Right.
So you should not have exposure that's longer than X. So yes, you should have a beach umbrella, or yes, you should have a very large sombrero, or I don't know what you need to do to not overdo it, but you should do it.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, so a lot of the ingredients in these suntan lotions are really bad for you.
Carcinogenic, out and out.
Now you wonder why you have skin cancer. Well, they blame the sun, but it's the crap you're sticking on your skin that's as much to blame as anything.
Yeah, that when that hit the news, it got shuffled off to the margins pretty quickly. But the studies exist. If you go looking, you will really find that truly suntan lotions are carcinogenic.
Yeah.
Terrible.
It sometimes it makes me feel like they find something that is harmful, like very bad sunburns where you've got blistering and all the rest of it. Yeah. And then they tie that with a bad thing that happens years later. Cancer of the skin cancer, melanoma.
Well, it is tied, Yes, people who have more exposure end up with skin cancers that that is true.
Right. But then the question is how much of it is because of the stuff they stick on their skin? And
No, Mel, a lot of that has to do with what's going on the inside. Remember that the body will not produce cancer unless it has some reason to, which usually means toxicity within.
so not just exposure to the sun.
Right. That's well, the exposure will cause damage, localized damage. So you have cells. But this thing has been puzzling me for years. Why is it that when I cut myself and I produce a scar, does my body reproduce me with the scar over and over and over? When for, I don't know, let's just say for the first 35 years before the scar, it was reproducing the cells normal. And then all of a sudden I have a cut injury and now it's reproducing itself with the scar. Why does it not go back to normal? As in cool. So I had an event where I caused myself some injury here on my arm, and it evolved into some sort of a weird keratosis skin thing. And I didn't like it. So I went to a doctor and asked for liquid nitrogen and have him just not burn, freeze it off with the liquid nitrogen. So I had a nothing much little wound there. And guess what? The skin healed and it healed normal. No more skin blemish. So I'm thinking that we should theoretically be able to burn off these skin problems using something like liquid nitrogen to just simply remind the body that it should go and repair itself back to pre-illness stage or state.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of cold therapies that people like to do and cold plunges.
Well, that's a whole different thing, yeah.
Friends of mine in Norway, they go into a sauna at Christmas time and then they run 200 yards and then jump in this little hole in the frozen ice, in the frozen lake. And I'm just like, no thank you. Well, not for me, but they love it.
The thyroid body type, like you and I, we are not great at doing cold water plunges because we're kind of wussy that way. But the adrenal types, they're 100% okay with it. They will.
I go into a shower, and if the shower is cold, I'm like, I can't handle this. I go out.
Yep. Right. And yet, if you withstand the first 30 seconds, right? Like if you turn it on cold, just step in it and just grit it, within 30 seconds, it's completely bearable.
Right. And I've had that experience because in many places there's no hot water. So if you want to shower, you got to shower with whatever's coming in out. So I've learned to handle it. But yeah. Okay. The body's amazing. That's one of the things that we want to make sure everybody gets is your body is really amazing. And there's lots of stories of people that had lots of problems and somehow their body healed itself. And it's always been a mystery, and I think it always will be a mystery because our body is growing and learning just like we're growing and learning too.
Yeah, the innate intelligence.
So let's get back to vitamin D.
Yeah. Let's talk about this stuff at some future time when we start talking about the physical and the emotional and the mental and the spiritual bodies and how the subtle stuff actually permeates to the physical expression.
Yeah,
so
that's something you and I have been talking about, and we'll have a show on that.
Yeah, I bet. Let us clear the fear of sun exposure out of our emotional bodies. One, it is an artificial fear. We have evolved running naked on savanna. Okay, we are built for it. Now, of course, Europeans like Scott and I, our ancestors have moved far away from the equator, so we have lost most of our melanin. So we're now having to hoard all the possible sunshine we can get when we can get it. And yet, at the same time, be careful not to burn, right? So the experience should be exposure just enough so that we are actually tanned, pleasantly, slightly tanned, not fried to crisp.
Yeah. And it boils down to one of the things we talk about a lot, which is balance, right? And discipline.
Yes.
Like if you don't have the discipline to walk by a Dunkin' Donuts and not buy, a dozen donuts and eat them in the next half hour, then you're going to have big problems. And it's the same with everything. If you want to have a drink of, a glass of beer and you end up having 12 of them every time you start, you're going to have a big problem. And so it's the same with the sun. And we, as parents, we need to be really cognizant of it and pay attention to our children who are running around in the sun, right? If they're, if it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes has gone by, come on, everybody, get in the shade. Let's get you out of the sun for a while, and then you can go back and play later. What happens is they get so involved in everything that they're doing, time flies. Next thing you know, they've been out in the sun for 8 hours, and it's like the first day of spring and they haven't been outside without all their clothes on for 6 months, and they're just burnt to a crisp. And that's not good either, right?
But at the same time, if you're sending out your little kids for a 20-minute play, you do not need to slather them up. Just send them out for the play and then call them back in. I mean, little kids don't last very long out in the sunshine anyway. So, let them play a little and then haul them back in.
Right. But have the discipline to be able to, pay attention to how much time they're being out there.
Right.
Which I wasn't something I wanted to talk about, but it's sort of come up in our conversation now, is when you do get a sunburn. When I was growing up, I had lots of sunburns, and my mom put vinegar and it stunk. And before you know it, my skin was fine again, right? The burn, it relieved the burn, it relieved the pain. And, there were a few times where I had blisters. I don't water blisters is what we called it, because we sweat and the skin just popped out, right? But it was, and then, you're ripping all these old skin off and everything else. But I'll tell you, that vinegar, oh my goodness, it was the greatest thing. She just had white vinegar. She had an old cloth. She just swab it on. And I'm like, oh, I don't do that. No. And then after a while, it was like,
to throw it in the open, skin is naturally acidic, right? The surface is naturally about 5.5 on the pH scale. So whether it's going to be just a fresh cut open lemon and you're going to rub it on all over, or you're going to take a lime, or you're going to take vinegar, whatever you have, right? You didn't have easy access to limes in cold Canada.
No.
But anyway, that's the whole point of it, is that you're restoring the natural pH of the skin.
Oh, that's pretty sure.
The inflammatory event is something like this. The internal cellular terrain is about minus 25 millivolt to naturally exist, which is the pH of about 7.35, slightly alkaline. And if you have a broken cell that needs repairs, that pushes it to minus 50 millivolt, furthermore into alkalinity. And if you have to make a whole new cell, because the one that you have to just break down, shut down, and make a new one, you need to push it to minus 90 millivolt, which means even more alkaline. So what you're doing with this acid treatment is you're slowing down the rate of repair, which is just as well, because you want less of the intensity of the repairs because it hurts. Anyway, simple, straightforward. Yeah, skin treatment. Have yourself a bath in something acidic, which is the opposite of baking soda bath. You will do a baking soda bath when you have a flu, when you want to get rid of the acidity from within the body. But if you burn yourself, put yourself into a vinegar bath.
Right. It'll calm everything down. Huh? Interesting.
Yeah.
Before we move on, I just wanted to say that when we're done, which is probably in about 11 minutes, we're going to have what we call the after party. If you have questions, put them in the comment section. If they're about vitamin D, we'll answer them right away. If they're about something else, we'll answer them in our after party. This is where we just sort of sit back, relax, and talk about a bunch of stuff and answer any questions that you've got. So just wanted to remind everybody about that. All right.
All right. So listen, sunshine is a prevention of inflammatory disease. The right amount of sunshine without burning you will produce vitamin D. If you're living in a terrain where you can't get enough sun exposure, you have to supplement it orally.
Right. So what are some symptoms of being deficient in vitamin D?
Well, you talked about it, catching every cold,
right?
Being inflamed in general, right? Cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, even cancer. Those are the main ones, right? And then the really obvious one is the bone disease, right?
Right, osteoporosis.
Yeah.
So I know we're not supposed to be doctors, but my big question is, if someone goes to the doctor, I have osteoporosis, should they be jumping up the vitamin D and sitting in the sun all the time?
Well, you can check the vitamin D levels, blood levels of vitamin D. That has been done. And the experimentation that's been done is they tried to treat people with a single large dose for convenience, right? Like when they do these experiments with people on vitamin D, how much to give and when to give, they tried to giving them 100,000 units once a month. Or then they tried to do 50,000 units once a week, because it's convenient for the testing purpose, because oftentimes they do that by injection. What was found in research, there are some studies out there, I don't remember this. I mean, I've read it some time ago. I can't quote to you the exact link, but the number that came from the naturopathic college is 9,600 IU per day, recommended dose, which is way bigger than what the RDA is according to the US government.
Right. I came across that too when I was reading up about it, and I don't remember the RDA now, but it was such a small amount. It's kind of like vitamin C. It stops you from getting scurvy and not much else, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking it up online just to see if I can answer that while we're talking. And everybody's babbling. Okay, RDA is 400 IU, and the college says 9,600. So that's
20 times more.
20 times, yeah. Well, 20 times would be 8,000. So we're more than 20 times, 24 times.
Yeah. Yeah. And all you got to do is sit in the sun. But what are some alternatives? It's a cloudy day. What can I eat that has lots of vitamin D in it?
Foods, you say?
What about fatty fish?
Well, that's vitamin A more than anything.
Milk.
Yeah, I mean, the vitamin D that we sold a while ago was extracted from lanolin, which is extracted from the wool of sheep.
Oh, great.
I have not thought about this.
Sweater.
Yeah, vitamin. Yeah, chew on your wool sweater.
Or lamb.
I don't know that it's going to come that way. So foods high in vitamin D, I just Googled it just for the fun of it. So we have salmon, sardines, Swiss cheese, tuna, egg yolk,
cod liver oil. Is that oil?
Cod liver oil, indeed.
That's another thing my mom did. Every morning I'd get a teaspoon or a spoonful of cod liver oil.
I think it was a tablespoon. It was a big gulp.
Yeah. It was like, oh, you got to take this. And of course it's winter, right? So it's winter, it's cloudy. When you do go out into the sun, you got this much that you can see.
Yeah,
right?
That's your exposure.
That's my exposure. And you're just,
what's funny? I remember my mom taking me as a 2 or 4-year-old to a clinic where they put glasses, special glasses on us, took our clothes off, and sat us in front of an ultraviolet lamp.
Oh,
And they called it the mountain sun,
the
but it was
mountain
a
sun,
UV lamp.
right?
Yeah,
Oh yeah. So people that people that go to tanning salons, they would be getting
right.
a little extra vitamin D.
That's right. Yeah,
Hmm.
there it
Interesting.
goes.
All right. So we've got a few products. We're just about done. We got a few products we want to tell you about that have to, that have to do with vitamin D. Um, Before we do that, just want to let you know that every Thursday at 2:30 Eastern, we are live, except next Thursday. Next Thursday, we're taking a week off, and that's because of me and my travels. I'm going to be on a plane to Kenya, and I'm really excited about that. And normally we go uncensored on Sundays on Telegram, and it's t.me/life and co. And Martin, this Sunday, are you going to be live?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm with it. I
Okay.
took a holiday 2 weeks ago.
So that's the last time, because we've decided that we're going to be doing our YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else live Thursdays at 2:30. And then when we're done, we're going to move over to Telegram. One of the things about Telegram is it is not quite as banning and censor happy as YouTube and Facebook and all the other places. So what we thought we would do is talk about a topic that we think is important. We do kind of the sanitized half-hour version, get you into it, and then we're going to switch over right away to Telegram and tell you what we really think uncensored. So, and in both places, you have the opportunity to comment and let us know what you think or ask questions, and then we'll be dealing with them. So that's what's coming up. And now make sure after the show, if you've got any live questions, put them in the comments, and we'll deal with them. Now we're going to talk about one of the things before we get into QuickSilver. Martin, one of the things we don't talk about enough, in my opinion, is the manufacturers, the people that any product that's on www.life-enthusiast.com are products that you have vetted, you've curated, the people, the processes that they use to make stuff. They're not filling things full of filler and,
Right.
dye number 3 and all that sort of stuff. It's all high quality, impactful ingredients that go into the products that you sell. So with that, this is
Let me
QuickSilver.
just say something on that. One of the
Okay.
criteria that we deal with on that is this. Companies that are smaller businesses started by a founder, run by the passion for making change in the world, tend to have all of the focus on changing the world, helping people, doing something, delivering it to you at quality. And then the company grows and grows, then reaches a certain size, and then either the owner ages out or maybe decides to just move on and sells. And then the company sells to somebody who's now not doing it because of his passion, but because of what it's doing financially, money. And so you start looking at the products by squeezing the costs down and getting the margins up. Whereas when you are the founder who cares about helping people and the quality of the products, you're always willing to sacrifice a bit of your profits for the benefits that are baked in. So Life Enthusiast as such, for the most part, delivers and promotes products that are still made by companies that are sticking to this standard. Once you sell out, once your owner is Nabisco or some publicly traded company, their objective is stockholder value, not consumer benefit. And just go with that. So Life Enthusiast is your good source of companies that make products with passion.
That actually happened to me. I have a friend in Florida, and she was using a pain cream that had some CBD oil in it and peppermint, and so I tried it. Oh, regardless of whether you're in pain, it's a great oil, right? And I have had problems with my knees, so I was putting it on my knees, and so I bought 3, and then I've used them all up, and I got back with her, and I said, I forget the name, where can I get this again? And she said they were sold. The company was bought up and then basically shut down. Like they were bought, and I don't know what the benefit was to the buyer, the seller, the owner,
Well,
the founder.
sometimes it's to eliminate competition.
Yeah. And that's really what it looked like happened, which was so sad because I really liked this oil. And
I've had that same, Scott, I've had similar problem. Like we source all kinds of important things for the Exula superfoods, right? Now I remember the experience. We used to buy red beet juice crystals. That was a phenomenal product. They got sold, and then they had that, not quite as good, and then that company got sold to another one, and then they just decided, oh, this is just too small for us to even bother, and just shut it off. It was just a rounding error on their balance sheet, and it's no longer focused. And so we had a big scramble trying to find another place that makes something that comes even close. Yeah. Anyway, stories, right, like that. So
all right.
To explain, QuickSilver Scientific is run by Christopher Shade, PhD. He calls himself doctor because he has a PhD, but he's not a doctor medical. And he's a researcher, and his claim to fame is understanding deeply how micronization and lipolyzation works. He makes products mainly in the liposomal category. And the big deal with liposome is this. You can have liposomes 300 nanometer, 200 nanometer, 80 nanometer, 60 nanometer. Like, for example, nanosoma is a 60 nanometer particle. Anything below 90 looks like a clear liquid. Anything above 150 starts looking opaque, and 300 is like milk. And what you're looking for is this. The smaller the particle, the greater its chance of delivering the payload into the body. And by payload, we mean the liposome is like a golf ball or ping pong ball that is hollow on the inside because the skin, the shell, is made of lipids, usually PC, phosphatidylcholine. And that stuff is compatible with your cell membrane. Every cell membrane is made from phospholipids. And so these phospholipids balls are capable of penetrating the cells. And within them is the payload. And the payload here is whatever we want to deliver. So, for example, here, vitamin D3. And Scott just put up a link to Cat's Claw. Cat's Claw Elite is one of the products. D3, which should be mentioned, should be paired with K, typically K2. And vitamin K is another fat-soluble vitamin, and it's a cofactor to go with the vitamin D. So vitamin D alone, not as good as vitamin D combined with K. So look for products that are D3 K2. They usually should be something like 5 times as much D3 as K2 in the mix. And anyway, the Cat's Claw itself.
Cool. Let's talk about this. Here's the scientific D3 K2. And we're putting it in the comments so you can get.
Well, it's just all it is. I just talked about it. Vitamin D3 combined with K2 made liposomal in phosphatidylcholine. You take sprays of it in the mouth. That stuff is about 10 times as efficient at delivering relative or compared to ordinary non-liposomal product. It tells you on the bottle how much vitamin D3 you're getting in every squirt. if I remember right, it's something like 2,500 or something like that. Do you see it there online? I don't have it in front of me. I have to look it up. I know that the cat's claw will deliver 1,000 IU every 2 pumps, but I'll have to go look it up. I can't keep all of the data in my head. Oh, somehow it looks like I'm the only one on the show. So I'm going to keep talking. I don't know what happened with Scott. Maybe his internet shut down. So the D3, one pump contains 2,500. So if you want to have 10,000 IU in a day, then you would be taking 4 pumps a day. What's interesting here is this. There's a huge difference between what is ingested and what is absorbed. So when you take 10,000 of some regular supplement, you may only end up absorbing 10, 15% of it instead of all of it. With the liposome, you have a good chance of absorbing all of it. So I would suggest that that's actually a good value, even though it appears to be more expensive. Right? Like the product itself is sold at, I think it's $45, $55 for the bottle, compared to something that you buy for $15 in the regular. But remember, you're getting 8 to 10 times the efficiency here. Oh, cool. You did come back.
I think I'm back. There was there was some disruption in the force, and I could see you, but I could tell that if I said anything, it would probably so I stopped.
Yeah, the photon torpedoes have been released by the Death Star crew.
That's right. That's right. So we're coming to the end of our time. And if you've got any questions, we're going to be doing an after party after we're finished the formal part of our chat today, which is finishing up in about 30 seconds, about now. We've talked a lot about how our bodies are very individual, and oftentimes what works for someone doesn't work for somebody else. And that's because of your metabolic type and a whole bunch of other things that make you a unique individual on this planet. So you can have a free 15-minute chat with Martin, and he can talk to you and talk with you about any issues that you've got. And you can do that at
life-enthusiast.com/shop/life-enthusiast-health-coach. Just search on the word coach. And I want to put in a blip. We actually have other people working at Life Enthusiast, and they're awesome. We have a nutritionist, a herbalist, and a physio specialist, and an exercise expert. And 2 of the gals that are working are dog owners that are just supremely experienced in that stuff. Just, I've never really looked after dogs. So other than, well, anyways, they understand dogs and their health and their feeding and their training and all of that. And a lot of our clients end up asking questions about that. So rest assured, we have not just Martin. This whole thing doesn't rise and fall with me.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Martin, because as you know, I house sit around the world, and usually there's a couple dogs or a couple cats. And I am amazed at the number of dogs that are sick, and they're getting medicines and they're getting this and they're getting that. Some of them are like 15 years old, so I can understand, but others are 3, 4, 5 years old, and they shouldn't be really, really sick. And so if you've got pets that have problems, give us a shout and see if we can help them as well.
Right. Anyway, we have darn good customer support. Maybe we should call it world-class customer support. Let's brag.
There you go.
Bye-bye.
That's
Facebook.
for sure. Well, it's what happens when everybody cares.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining us, everybody. We're going to have our after party right after this.
Do you see any comments?
All
Scott?
right. No comments. So put any questions in. And I want to talk about dogs for a minute because
All right, let's have it.
4 years ago, I did a house with 3 dogs, and one of the dogs, a smaller one, had kidney problems. So I was giving him some kidney medicine, and he just looked like he was going to bowl over and die on me every time we went for a walk. He would be behind us. He would barely, you could tell his energy was low. You could tell he was awful. And the medicine worked, and he got better. I mean, they were caring for him and everything else. And so this is like the 3rd time. It was just a couple of months ago, and he was the only one not on a leash, because before he never went far enough to need being on a leash, right? He'd go half a block and stop and wait for us, but he would be running in front of us and running behind us and running in front of us. And it was just so nice to see this dog like healthy after seeing him so sick and miserable.
Great.
So
yeah. So recovery is possible. Yeah.
It is. Nothing is
kind
impossible.
of neat that you have developed this.
So if you've got any questions,
yeah, kind of neat
Go
that
ahead.
you have developed this trap line that you have already out there. People calling Scott saying, "Hey, listen, next Christmas I want to be 2 months away. Would you take the house and the dogs for me?" Right?
Yeah. It's actually this particular couple we've kept in touch, and I tell them the times that I'm going to be in the area, and if they can, and they'll say, "Well, we were going to go in May, but we'll go in April if you're going to be around in April," because they go back to the States to look after. They're in Panama. Go back to the States, look after see their kids, grandkids.
Also, this is your Panama hangout.
Yeah, my Panama hangout. Yeah.
It's kind of neat,
if you'd have told me 7 years ago I'd spend that much time in Panama, particularly after my first experience in Panama, which was hot, humid, traffic jam city, unpleasant to the nth degree, and yet once you get out of the city, it's amazing.
Yeah, you need to understand that the lowland in tropics is pretty awful, but the mountain air is pretty pleasant, right?
That's right. Well, and Panama City has no beach. So once you go an hour in any direction, you see beaches, right? So I don't know why they couldn't have built a canal an hour over to one side or the other, but they didn't. And probably because the sand is not good for the canal. But anyway, once you get out, even on the beach is great. I love walking along the beach, and I don't mind the heat.
I think
my last sit actually in Panama I was just going to say was with 2 dogs that were old. They weren't on any medication, but one was reactive. So they had it had bitten the back of another dog. And they're both big dogs, and the owners are not big people. So the agreement in the condo was 1 dog, 1 person. So they asked me, we need you to take the dogs for a walk, but instead of 1 walk, it'll be 2 walks. And my knees, which had been bothering me for months, were starting to feel really good. And I said, yeah, no problem, because this is going to push me to walk more. And, hopefully the knees are going to get better and better, which was the case. And they would go 2 long walks, 2 short walks, right? So that was like 8 walks. But every short walk, I turned into a long walk. And the poor dogs were like, and most of the 2 walks were like after 4, and 8. So it was, the sun was going down, it was cooling off, and in the morning the sun was coming up, it was still cool. And at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, it was pleasant to be out.
Yeah.
So they weren't ever out when it was like boiling hot or anything like that. But I figured it all out. I thought, I'm going 8 kilometers, which is 5 miles a day. I was in my glory, because that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
So what else can we talk about?
I was going to butt in
vitamin
with
D is different than vitamin. Go ahead.
I think we have some delay, and it's just making it difficult to talk over top of one another. I was going to butt in with that Panama Canal location. I think it had to do with the lakes. They needed some lakes in the middle to make it work. So I think they put it there because they had help from the lakes.
Yeah, I think you're right. So my question is, vitamin D3 has been, the talk of the town, but is that different than vitamin D, or is there a vitamin D1?
Well, there's such a thing as D2. Yeah, we'll have to ask the AI now to tell me, right? How many? No, list. Never mind how many. List all the types of vitamin D and their purpose. One thing is really important is to start learning how to put a prompt together for the AI.
Right.
If you ask a dumb question, you get really lousy answers, and you need to try and figure it out. So I have it on this other screen, so I'll be turned sideways. But so ergo calciferol, vitamin D2, found in plants, especially in mushrooms and yeasts, but also in plant foods like cereals and juice, and helping the absorption of calcium and phosphorus in bone health. And D3 is cholecalciferol. So other than ergo, it's a cholecalciferol. And this is produced by the skin when exposed to sunlight. So the D3 is the one that we produce rather than we eat. And it's in fatty fish, egg yolk, beef liver, dairy, like cheese. And it also aids with calcium and phosphorus metabolism. So that's everything to do with bone health, but also because of the calcium to do with the entire autonomic nervous system, which, I don't know, 300 plus physiological processes that are depending on that. So inflammation, immune, bone. Yeah,
prevent pretty important.
Rickets. Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting, right? That the D2 is essentially from plants, while the D3 is essentially from animals. Interesting thing about this sun tanning to make vitamin D3 is you need to go not washed, because your skin is naturally covered in oils. But if you use soap and wash it off and then go for sun exposure, you're going to make no vitamin D3. You need to be covered in oils, the natural oils.
Okay, so that ties in with dogs.
Okay, in what way?
I learned something very interesting about dogs. And that is they will go and sit in the sun. And I'm looking at them going like, it's friggin' hot out. What are you guys doing laying in the sun? Well, the sun on their fur creates an oil of vitamin D, and they lick it. So all of a sudden they're licking them afterwards. And that's because they don't produce vitamin D.
Right on. Okay.
So there, that whole oil thing. So David Peter has a comment, and he says, I ordered Theram aminos, and it says to take on an empty stomach shortly before eating. How long before? Same with humic acid.
Okay. So thank you for ordering from Life Enthusiast. Much appreciated.
Right, take it away.
The Theraminos are free-form amino acids, and they will combine with proteins in your stomach and act as an enzyme to help digest it if there is food in your stomach. So what you want is you want to take these when you're either eating just fruit juice or something like that, or no, the proteins are the worst of the proteins will take away the benefit. Not that it's lost on you, you have other benefit, but the main purpose for taking these aminos is to get them into your small intestine. So the question, how long? Probably 20 to 30 minutes before you eat. Mix it in with water or juice or some kind of a fruit smoothie, that's fine, but not with food. So, for example, I take the Theraminos in my Exula superfood. So I have a smoothie that has an apple, blueberry, and several teaspoons of various things, including Theraminos. I just drink the whole thing. That works. The humic, you can add the humic to the same drink. You can combine humic or fulvic with the Theraminos, not an issue.
And you can just take it straight with water.
You could. It's a bit of a stretch because it's fairly bitter. We tried to modulate the taste as best as we could. We turned it into a chocolate mint drink, but the bitterness is pretty noticeable.
Which humic acid product are we talking about?
I don't know. Probably just a humic acid.
Okay, because I put it in my water. I put it in my water, and it looks like
black
Coca-Cola with no fizz.
Yeah.
And I don't notice any taste.
Right. I don't think he mentioned taste.
I thought you said
he was asking if he could take the aminos with a humic.
Oh, okay.
I think. Could you pop it up one more time?
You said a chocolate mint.
Yeah. Chocolate. Theraminos are flavored chocolate.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about the humic acid. I was saying chocolate mint humic acid. I didn't know about that one.
No, but when you buy yourself the Theraminos, they are awesome. You know, like we have the aminos, Doc's aminos in capsule form. But when you buy it in powder form as the Theraminos, you get exactly twice as much of the product for the same money.
So why would someone want the Theraminos?
Well, free-form aminos, they are compensating for people whose digestion is not great. It's anti-inflammatory. If you have back pain, joint pain, tiredness, anything that smacks of arthritis, fibromyalgia, all of those inflammatory kind of conditions, they would be made better by having free-form aminos available. As in, the inflammation level goes down because of it.
Gotcha. So here's a follow-up question from David. I've been taking them 5 to 10 minutes before my Exula fruit smoothie. Good for you. I didn't realize I could add
you can
them
pound
too.
it right into the same drink as long as you don't put proteins in it, like raw eggs or whatever. If you're pushing proteins, then don't put it into that smoothie. Like I often advocate that people make a smoothie with an egg, right? Like you put a bunch of green things, superfood things, and you can smash a raw egg in it, and it's a fantastic source of healthy protein.
I saw Rocky drink a raw egg in a glass in the movies, and I just can't imagine.
You know, it's a visual, because when you put it in a smoothie, you won't taste a thing. It's totally unnoticeable.
Yeah.
It's a mental problem, not a taste problem.
I'm just making sure that he didn't have any more questions. Thank you, David, for that. Please give us a like and subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe. Come see us. All right.
So thank you for joining us, everybody. I think we're pretty much done. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll see you this Sunday on Telegram. Where is it? on Telegram, t.me/lifeandco. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be back here. We'll tell you the vanilla, politically correct stuff. And then we'll tell you what
I
we
hope
really
I don't
think.
transgress when I mention words like arthritis and fibromyalgia in the same sentence.
I'm a bad influence on Martin. I keep bringing up stuff, and then he goes off, and afterwards it's like, oh,
Right.
should I have said that?
Yes,
So,
and David, the Strataflora, of course, it belongs in there. It helps manage the entire digestive and eliminative systems. There's something for every stage, something for the mouth, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. It's antiparasitic, it's liver support, it's pancreas support. It's an awesome product. A lot of, years of happy customers. Yeah.
I feel obliged to say that although I just was on the air drinking what looks like water, it has in it some iridescent, because I had a full glass of iridescent before we started, and then I just filled it up with water and kept going.
Yeah. And by the way, just before I came on the air with Scott, I had a spoonful of Lazarus, Elagiplex, Advancium, and amino acids, and lecithin with coenzyme Q10, and hemp seeds, all piled into a smoothie with a cup of blueberries and water and apple. And I buzzed it in my blender, and I drank that. Oh, yeah, and I added a spoonful of coconut to it for energy. So that was my breakfast of champions before this talk.
You know, I've been doing this all wrong. I'll have a iridescent jar, and I'll put some in some water, and I'll drink it. And then I'll go get some water, and I'll put some humic acid in it, and I'll drink it. And then I'll go get something else, and I'll and like 20 minutes later, an hour later, half an hour, half a day later.
You're well hydrated.
Yeah.
Mind you, my smoothie is 36.
Stick it all together.
Yeah, my smoothie is 36 ounces in a blender, right? So when I get up from drinking it, I slosh around.
My problem is traveling. This is the biggest glass that I've been able to find anywhere.
Yeah,
so
no worries.
I usually have these little glass.
I mean,
and I did take, I did buy one, a plastic one, and then I thought, I don't want plastic. I like glass. So
yeah,
and I'm not going to pack glass. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, David, and everybody else. It's part and parcel of our after party. We appreciate you a lot, and we'll see you on Sunday at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific on Telegram, and we'll see you in 2 weeks back here. And we're really excited about making this change, and we hope you enjoy it too. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.